check out this drone shot I got in Barkhamsted. I was there early in the morning because I was going on a fishing trip, and I never really looked twice at it. I'm like, oh, that's pretty. I got there in the morning and there was this layer of fog drifting across the reservoir. The sun was peeking over the mountain, and it was just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's those little things that'll get you the compositions that you're looking for. You just want to get to a good place at a good time, and then you find your perfect composition. Using the advice from this video, you should be able to find a good composition as long as you have a beautiful subject and you're there at the right time of day. Alright, first off, let's talk about the rule of thirds. No, I'm not talking about the rule of thirds when it comes to eating a pizza. Although that's pretty important too, because I love pizza. Until I tried New Haven Pizza, I thought this was the best pizza, but this is a great video on Manchester if that's something you'd be interested in. I'm talking about dividing your frame into thirds both horizontally and vertically, and placing your subject along those lines. Picture playing tic-tac-toe with your camera, only it's way cooler. It's a fundamental principle in visual composition. Widely used in photography, painting, design, filmmaking. It suggests dividing an image into 9 equal parts, meaning you got 2 lines vertical, 2 lines horizontal, and they're equally spread apart, just like this grid here. Sometimes it's okay to place your subject in the center. I'm not saying it's never do that, always follow the rule of thirds. There's tons of rules to composition. I'm only going over my favorite ones here and the ones I find most important, but there are tons of composition rules. And you could center your subject like I did here in this bird photo with this yellow bird. If you look at the swan picture here, you can notice that the swan's actually down the lower left corner a little bit. It's because you have a lot more going on than just the swan. I want the viewer's eyes to first look at the swan with its mouth open, and then you see what it's looking at, and it points your eyes to the other swan that's cleaning itself. The key elements of the composition should be placed along those lines or at their intersections, known as the PowerPoints. This technique helps you create more dynamic and visually appealing images by creating balance, adding a different perspective, and emphasizing key elements. When you're creating balance, you want to place the main subject off-center and allow for a more balanced composition with your remaining space, creating a visual interest. Adding a different perspective, such as off-center placement, avoids the static feeling of a centered subject, encouraging the viewer's eyes to move around the image. You want the viewer to see the subject, but then you also want them to scan the entire image and find the other interesting objects or interesting parts of your composition that you found when you were taking your photo. Emphasizing the key elements means aligning points of interest with PowerPoints that draw attention to them. While the rule of thirds is a helpful guideline, it's not an absolute rule, and nothing in photography is, because it's all subjective. If you think it's beautiful and if other people think it's beautiful, then you've got a good composition. Some people could say you have the eye. I kind of feel like I have the eye. When I first started, I didn't even really pay attention to the composition rule, but when I started looking into what the rules were, I realized I was following them by natural instinct, and there's a lot of tips in there that you'll get, and you'll want to change the way you're doing things if you were to just read a book on composition. I really recommend this book here. It's a great book. It teaches you all about the basic composition methods. It goes into advanced composition. It goes into color. It goes into how important color and contrast are in your photos. It goes over everything. And if you just like take the tips out of this book and apply it to your photography, you're gonna improve tenfold. Creative expression and breaking the rules can also lead to very compelling images. Like in this photo here. You can see all the contrast in this image with the 3 deer, and I do a lot of dodging and burning here. If you want to learn how to dodge and burn, I'm coming up with a video on that soon, and I'm going to talk about how to dodge and burn effectively to create a better photo. But anyways, next up we have leading lines, a very important composition rule. I use leading lines whenever I see the opportunity, whether it be a fence, a road, clouds in the sky. You want them to point to your subject. You see that in a lot of my photos. Leading lines are lines in your photo that lead your viewer's eye to the subject. Think about roads, fences, even a cute little puppy's tail. Like if it just curves and points to yourself, I don't have an example. I'm just, I don't know why I threw that out there. Anyways, anything that creates a visual journey for your eyes, it's like a scavenger hunt, only with pictures. Essentially, the rule of leading lines suggests using lines within the image to guide the viewer's eyes towards the main subject. These lines can be actual lines like roads, rivers, fences. They can be implied lines formed by the arrangement of elements within your scene. The purpose is to create a visual journey for the viewer, pulling their attention through the image and adding depth and making your image way more dynamic. If you can make your image more dynamic, you're making a better image. You don't want to overclutter it though, and that's a discussion for another video. There's many types of leading lines though. We have converging lines, These lines are the lines that meet at a point, often creating a sense of perspective and depth. Classic examples include railroad tracks and tree lines. Next, we have diagonal lines. Something about diagonal lines that just add a dynamic energy to your images. Think of a winding path leading through a landscape or a staircase stretching upwards. Or look at this picture here. We also have curved lines. Curved lines provide a sense of grace and elegance. The curves of a winding river or coastline are great examples of this. Horizontal lines, they provide stability. Think about a horizon or a long fence. And then we have vertical lines. They convey strength or power, such as towering skyscrapers like this one here, or tall trees. As you can see, leading lines, they're just super important. You want to use them in your photography. You'll see your images improve for sure. You can experiment with different types of lines and their placement to create unique compositions and perspectives. Basically, leading lines, they create depth, movement, and they really help with storytelling. If you follow me, if you've seen some of my other videos, you know that storytelling is probably one of the most important things about photography to me. I really like to tell a story behind each photo. If you're just taking a picture of a subject, it's not telling a story, then it's not going to be one of the best photos. Let's say this turtle on a log here. This thing, this is invoking power to me. Like, you got the log. I just see this as a powerful image because you can see the reflection of the turtle underneath him. He's looking up at me. I went out with my father-in-law to a trail and he showed me this place where hundreds of turtles were sitting on a log. And this turtle specifically was the last turtle on the log when I took the photo. I slowly creeped down, but when I got about 15 feet away, the only turtle left was this guy here. So to me, this tells a story, and I like stories in photography. I like to look at my photos and be like, oh, I remember that. That's the day this happened. And if you can do that, it'll just take your photography game to the next level. Like I said, I could have picked him up and made turtle soup out of him, and he still wouldn't be I wouldn't be able to do that, because I feel like that day we became friends. We bonded. Anyways, while the rule of leading lines is a powerful tool, remember that composition is ultimately a creative endeavor. Don't be afraid to experiment, break the rules, break them, and find your own unique style. Combining leading lines with other compositional techniques like the rule of thirds or framing to create compelling and memorable images is just going to take your photography to that next level. And that leads me into my final composition tip, which is framing. No, I'm not talking about putting a picture frame around your photo, although that would be pretty fancy. I'm talking about using elements in your environment to frame your subject and draw attention to it. It's like putting a spotlight on your subject, only without the blinding lights and the sweaty people running around. You can use natural frames, using elements in your scene like doorways, windows, tree branches to frame your subject. This adds layers and draws attention to your main point of interest. Like in this photo here, you can see the branches kind of frame the bird in this photo, or in this monkey photo, you can clearly see that he's framed between the two. He or she, I'm not sure, I didn't get that close. You can also get close to your subject and fill the frame with it. This can eliminate distractions and create a sense of intimacy or impact. It all depends on what you're trying to convey. You can also use negative space. This means you leave empty space around your subject. It gives your subject room to breathe and creates a sense of isolation. Some additional tips would be experiment with angles. Shoot from high or low angles to change the perspective and create unique composition. You can also consider the background. Make sure the background complements your subject and doesn't distract you from it. You want to pay attention to edges. Avoid cutting off important parts of your subject or having distracting elements at the edges of your frame. And most importantly, break the rules. Creativity doesn't exist if you just follow the rules that somebody made up, because these rules were made by other photographers and they're guidelines. They're not rules that you have to follow. I take it back. They're not rules. They're guidelines, and I like to see them as guidelines. So don't ever consider anything in photography as a rule. Follow these principles. Don't follow these rules. They're not rules. They are principles to guide you to a better photo. What you should have learned today is that when it comes to photography, composition is key. So go out there, find those killer compositions. That's gonna make your photos pop like a bag of microwave popcorn, because you're not gonna find any amazing compositions watching this video. And that's counterintuitive because I kind of want you to watch this video. If you like videos like this, by the way, subscribe. I've got a lot more coming. I'm actually a New England photographer, and if that's something you're into, if you want to see the beauty that New England has to offer, if you want to see what there is to do in New England, how much it costs, if you want to find things to do with your family, if you're going to visit New England, if you live in New England, you're going to want to subscribe and watch my videos. I've got videos about all the places in New England. I just did one in the capital, Connecticut. I'm going to be getting the best compositions imaginable in New England. I'm going to be showing you the most fun things to do with your family, with your friends, by yourself. I camp, I fish, I'm trying to do a lot of new stuff, so New England in the fall is gonna blow your goddamn mind. It's gonna blow your mind. If you don't even know what New England's known for, it's the fall and pizza. Connecticut's mainly known for the pizza. All the states in New England are known for something, but all of them are known for the fall. If you come here in the fall, if you've never been here, if you're from here, you know that the fall is the most beautiful thing in the world, and that's probably why Halloween's my favorite holiday, because I've always loved fall. I always like to say, if you're not using your camera, you're not getting better. And if you enjoyed this video, you're probably going to enjoy this one too. And until next time, peace.